3, 2, 1. Blue streak speeds by. Sonic the Hedgehog, too fast for the naked eye. Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic, he can really move. Sonic, he's got an attitude. Sonic, he's the fastest thing alive. Look out when he storms through. Sonic the Hedgehog, don't doubt what he can do. Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic, he can really move. Sonic, he's got an attitude. Sonic, he's the fastest thing alive. He's the fastest thing alive. He's the fastest thing alive. Who's ready for another chapter? 'Cause I'm not. Story 4, Speed and Flight, Part 2. "You follow me and I'll kill the boy," he says, mocked Sonic as he ran through the thick, dense forest after Eggman. "Yeah, good thing you didn't say I can't follow him in secret." Sonic had met a fox cub named Tails and was making friends with him until Eggman kidnapped him. Now, Sonic was running through the forest to save him. Eggman threatened to kill Tails if he saw Sonic following him, so Sonic ran through thicker parts of the forest so Eggman wouldn't be able to see him. Sonic didn't even run at top speed in case Eggman heard him. He ran at a normal jogging pace so Eggman would never be able to hear him. "Yeah, that egghead will never see me coming," said Sonic to himself, putting on a shade of cool glasses. He would follow Eggman to wherever he was heading to, and he would save Tails from that evil man's clutches. Dr. Eggman arrived at his next base. The one was exactly the same as the other base that Sonic had destroyed, only it was larger and surrounded by a steel fence instead of a stone one. Eggman hadn't been sure if stone or steel was the best fence after all, so he tried the stone fence on one base and steel on the other. The fence had a keep out sign sprayed somewhere on it. Eggman's Eggmobile landed next to his base, and Eggman grabbed Tails by the scruff of his neck. He carried his captive into the base and through several corridors. He came to a door labeled Roboticizer Room. He opened it and walked into the room. He put Tails in one of the cages and pressed the close button on the small keypad. The glass case descended down and closed around him. Tails was trapped like a rat. Eggman cackled with laughter at Tails. He choked on his own spit and almost died for a moment.
"Finally, after weeks of hunting you down, I've got you in my grasp, miles per hour,"
cackled Eggman. Tails sat on the floor, folded his arms, and frowned. He was getting tired of Eggman calling him by his real name when he absolutely hated it. "For the last time, everyone calls me Tails," he grumbled.
"Whatever,"
muttered Dr. Eggman.
"Alonzo!"
he screeched. Alonzo, Eggman's servant bot, trundled into the room. "Yes, master," he said in his posh accent.
"Is the roboticizer ready yet?"
asked Eggman eagerly. "Oh, yes, sir," said Alonzo, saluting like a general.
"Excellent,"
said Eggman happily.
"Any news on
who know who?" Alonzo's face turned into an evil smirk. "Not yet, sir, but we'll catch that blackguard, don't you worry." Dr. Eggman just hooted with laughter. "Hoot, hoot, hoot!" He loved it when Alonzo made himself sound so sure he was going to win this time. Dr. Eggman turned his attention back to Tails, who was pressing his hand against the glass cage and looking worried.
"Little Tails,"
purred Eggman.
"In a matter of moments you will become my newest addition to my marvelous robot army. I can't wait to see the horrified look on Sonic's face when he fails to save you. I can't also wait even more to look myself in the mirror. Oh, this mustache is perfect. Oh, yes."
And then he cackled his usual demented cackle. Tails shook like a leaf and hugged his tails fearfully. "I don't want to be a robot," thought Tails. "Yo, Sonic, where are you?" Sonic the Hedgehog finally made it to Eggman's second base. He screeched to a halt in front of the huge steel fence. He admired the steel fence and grinned mockingly. "A steel wall?" he sneered. "Well, it's better than a stone wall, at least. Steel won't keep me out, though." Let me get my other pair of sunglasses. Oh, there we go. Awesome. Especially since I'm gonna tunnel under the wall, he yelled. He made sure that everyone around could hear him, and that no matter what, his plan would be foiled, but somehow no one noticed. He leapt into the air, did a spin dash, and plunged into the ground. He plowed straight through the ground, chucking soil and grass everywhere as he dug down and down. On the other side of the fence, there were 3 guards on a robot. I said that in reverse. You get what I'm saying. They clinked and clanked as they stomped around place to place, observing every inch of the area, making sure there were no intruders. One of the robots stood on the sewer lid. Then suddenly, the sewer lid began to rattle under the robot's feet. The robot looked down curiously at its feet. Then suddenly, the sewer lid burst open, and the robot was catapulted into the air like a tossed stick. Sonic had done that. He had dug straight through the ground and came up through the sewer lid. He dug through the ground and burst into the sewers. That's totally his plan the entire time. He totally knew about the sewer system. The Hedgehog is in the building, he announced more to himself than anybody. The robot that had been sent flying hurtled down to the ground faster than a falling stone and landed slap bang into the wall. One of its tail cannons accidentally fired. It hit another robot in the bottom. The startled robot screeched a mechanical screech and fired one of its arm cannons. The cannon blasted the third robot and blasted its whole head off. Pieces of robot head fell to the ground and the robot's dead body collapsed, smoke trailing out of where its head once was. Sonic stared glumly at the fleeing and destroyed robots. He put his hands on his hips and sighed. So much for your welcoming committee, he grumbled. Oh well, it makes my job a little easier. Yeah. He leapt out of the hole and charged straight at Eggman's base at top speed. Then he bashed his way through the door. The door was ripped clean off its hinges and flung across the room. Sonic's head throbbed a little after that, but he could never feel as much pain from charging to those doors, and it never lasted long. Then Sonic dashed through the corridors. Alonzo burst into the roboticizer room, flailing his arms around like mad. Master, the Hedgehog has gotten into the premises. And worse, I can't find that other mustache to compliment your man mustache, shouted Alonzo in blind panic. What? Squeaked Eggman, sweat dropping. Not the complimentary mustache! Plus, how did he get past my security? All my 3 guards! Tails' ears prickled up. His face brightened. That must be Sonic! He cried out with joy. He's come to save me at last! Unfortunately, Eggman heard him. Thanks for that, little Tails, said Eggman. Because I have an idea now. His face turned into a dark, sinister look, complete with an evil smile, and an evil mustache, and an even eviler mustache. Sonic must be here to save you, he said, his voice strangely low and sinister. So I'm gonna set up a little surprise for him. Tails gulped. He didn't like the sound of that. What was that crazy man up to now? Sonic had run through several corridors and destroyed lots of robots. However, upon reaching this corridor, he skidded to a halt and slowed down. Security was bound to be tighter around here since he was near the roboticizer room. Sonic pressed his back against the wall and crept slowly across it. As he crept along, he noticed something strange was going on. This corridor was strangely quiet, and there didn't seem to be a guard in sight. Eggman obviously wasn't bothered about security around here, but that seemed unusual for him. Well, it did seem usual for him, but not in this specific scenario. That's strange, Sonic said to himself. No Eggman robots patrolling the corridors like usual. Eggman is those things patrolling the corridors 24/7 and guarding everything. Totally all the time. I'm totally not being sarcastic, dude. So why are there no robots? He put his hand on his chin and pulled a thoughtful face. I bet that creep is planning an ambush, he deduced. It couldn't be anything else. I'll just keep my hedgehog senses on the alert. We hedgehogs have those things. Wink. Third pair of sunglasses. On. And with that, he tiptoed through the hallway and came up to a door. Sonic didn't care which room this was. He was just keen on finding Tails. He seized the handle and pulled it. The handle clicked and the door opened. Sonic opened it very slowly so as to not make any noise. The room he had entered was full of weird machinery and treadmills. Along with that, an entire collection of mustaches and a ton of weird, awkward pictures of robot parts. Electricity buzzed and crackled as the machines worked away, and electronic humming could be heard everywhere. This was definitely not the roboticizer room. The mustaches made clear that. This seemed more like the robot production room, and maybe a bit of a hangout room, maybe a bit of a personal room too. Sonic didn't judge. However, this room was just as important, since if he destroyed the machines, Eggman wouldn't be able to make any robots. Well, this isn't the room I'm looking for, said Sonic. But I'll definitely come back here later. It's total foreshadowing, bro. Fourth pair, sunglasses, on right now. Then suddenly he felt a sharp thump against his head. Sonic's eyes widened and then he collapsed to the floor, seeing millions of stars before dropping off into slumber. Alonzo had been hiding behind the door when Sonic entered, and he crept up behind the Hedgehog and knocked him out with a club made from copper and surrounded with gold rivets. Alonzo cackled a rather silly-sounding evil cackle at his success. The famed Sonic the Hedgehog fell to the oldest trick in the book. Master will be very pleased indeed. Oh, Rosso, you stay out of my room! My private photo collection is mine and mine alone. Don't dare touch it. And with that, he picked Sonic up, threw him on his shoulder, and carried the knocked-out Hedgehog out of the room. Blimey, he's heavy, sputtered Alonzo. What does this hedgehog eat? Alonzo left the room, huffing and puffing, and trundled down the corridor to the roboticizer room. Eggman would be pleased to see he had Sonic the Hedgehog knocked out on his shoulder once he arrived, and they'd get to roboticize him as well. This day was going well for Alonzo and Eggman after all. Sonic moaned a weary moan as he opened his heavy eyelids. His vision was blurred and he felt very groggy. After all, he had been hit on the head very hard. His head was still throbbing like goodness knows what. As he began to get on his knees, he rubbed his throbbing head and blinked his eye to wake them up a little. Then Sonic suddenly noticed something. Was that glass right in front of him? Sonic held his hand out and reached forward. His hand pressed against something. It was glass! He was in a glass store! For glass! Oh, and he was also in a glass cage. The exact same cages Eggman trapped his victims in when he was ready to roboticize them. Wow, what a coincidence! How on earth did this happen? Sonic thought for a moment to see if he could remember. He remembered the shock knock against his head that put him in dreamland. Maybe the thing who knocked him out was the one that put him here, and the one who knocked him out was Dr. Eggman, no doubt. He had to get out of here before he was roboticized. Sonic! Called the childish-sounding voice he recognized immediately. Sonic turned to his right and saw Tails in a glass cage directly next to his cage. They were twin cages. Tails, said Sonic with relief. Found you at last. Pity you had to be captured, though. Fifth pair of sunglasses. I'm so glad you're here, said Tails. Although, like you, I wish I weren't captured. You know how to get out of here? Sure, said Sonic, getting into a ready to charge pose. I'll just smash my way through the glass. He revved up and then charged at the glass, but instead of breaking it, he crashed into it and hurt his face. Sonic rolled over backwards and rubbed his aching nose, groaning furiously. Ouch, he said. Why didn't I smash this darn glass? I can break lots of things, especially with my impenetrable shield of sunglasses. Sonic the Hedgehog, baby.
That's because it's diamond glass, my helpless hedgehog, announced a voice Sonic wished he would never hear again.
Sonic looked directly in front of him and saw, wait for it, Nicolas Cage! I don't know why. It was Dr. Eggman, smiling, wickedly at him. Sonic glared at him. I should have known that you're the reason I'm in here, grumbled Sonic. It couldn't have been anyone else.
Well, actually, it was Alonzo's doing, admitted Eggman. He crept up behind you, knocked you out. What is his room after all? I can't really understand why you're degrading him like this. He felt really sad about it, hearing that you didn't even believe it was him. Alonzo looks in the corner sadly. It's okay, Alonzo. I believe you did this. Alonzo just put on a very smug face. I'm not only used for fetching medals, he smirked. Sonic had to admit it. Alonzo actually did something useful for once. Never before had the servant bot gotten the drop on him. Hey, what are you talking about? Alonzo looked at him super rudely. Eggman definitely was getting better at his stuff. Dr. Eggman strolled over to the control pad and turned a few dials. You've been a thorn in my side for 8 months, Sonic, said Eggman dryly. Now our conflict will end after 700 chapters of this. All will finally end, and you will be roboticized.
He pressed the button marked in capital letters, Activate, specifically for Sonic in the case I finally get him, with another sticky note on the bottom saying, No worries, you don't have to use it if you don't need to. And the two cages began to glow. Light blue electricity circled around the cages and crackled as the process went underway. No! Cried Sonic.
Yes!
Cried Dr. Eggman, delighted to see Sonic was finally going to get defeated by him. For the first time in his life, Sonic was terrified. He was just about to get turned into an evil killer robot under control for Dr. Eggman! Exclamation point! How on earth was he going to get out of this one? The Diamond Glass Man! It was insane! A substance strong enough to resist even bombs, and he had no way of escaping. He was doomed to be a robot forever. Then Sonic suddenly realized something. The floor of the cage wasn't made of diamond glass. Maybe he could break his way through the floor like he did the sewers. Yes! Sonic jumped up, span into a ball, and spin dashed straight into the steel floor. He churned his way through thick steel and spent splinters of metal flying everywhere. The annoying Sonic spin dash sound kept playing over and over again in a weird audible loop as Dr. Eggman had to cover his ears and the mustache flopped right off his face in sheer pain. My mustache! Oh! Every bit of the room was covered with that incredibly annoying sound. Tails, however, just stared at him, unable to believe his eyes. Yes, cried Godsmacked Tails. Sonic had dug his way through the floor of his cage. He had now dug himself under the floor of the room. But instead of popping up, he turned to the right and dug towards Tails' cage. Then he aimed up and burst through the floor of Tails' cage, hitting Tails straight in the legs. He broke both his legs. He was bleeding. It was terrible. That didn't actually happen, but I would like that. Tails almost leapt out of his fur when Sonic appeared. Then Sonic fell straight back down the hole and dug his way under the floor of the room again. Then he smashed his way through the floor, leaving a hole in it. He was now out of his cage and in front of Dr. Eggman, smiling cockily at him. I mean, he did just break through steel, after all. Dr. Eggman thought he was going to faint. Tails slid down the hole in his cage and crawled through the tunnel Sonic had made underground. Then Tails came out of the hole and stood next to Sonic. You're amazing! Cried Tails. That should be impossible! Thanks, said Sonic happily. I had us both out in one spin dash, and that is just the facts. 10th pair of sunglasses, baby. Eggman just reached behind himself and pressed the deactivate button. The cages stopped glowing and the electricity faded away into nothingness. Sonic glared at the fat scientist smoothly. You're getting smarter, Egghead, he said calmly, but not smart enough for me. Now give up while you have the chance.
Never, declared Eggman. I will roboticize you and your friend. Alonzo, get them, he ordered.
With pleasure, sir, cackled Alonzo. He charged at Sonic as fast as his little wheels would let him. However, Sonic just lunged forward with a powerful kick to the midsection. Alonzo gasped as his optics nearly popped out. I mean, that shouldn't really hurt a robot, but it still did for some reason. Get a life, Alonzo, yelled Sonic. What I say, wheezed Alonzo as he stumbled onto the floor feebly. He clutched himself in pain. I should have a hobby, you know. I just need something to do once in a while. Whenever I'm feeling robot alone. He only makes men, you know. He only makes men. Is that all you've got, Eggman? Taunted Sonic. No, this is, said Eggman, whipping out a small test tube-shaped device with a button on top from his pocket. He pressed the button. Then suddenly a door on one of the walls exploded into fragments. Sonic and Tails almost left out of their skins when that happened. Smoke billowed out where the door had once been. Eggman put on his wicked grin as he got ready to announce.
You've defeated many of my past robots, Sonic, but you won't defeat my latest creation, Scream Roller.
Out of the fading smoke stomped a huge robot. It stood about 10 feet tall. The robot had a spike on its head and a structure resembling something on a knight's helmet producing from behind it. It had a pointed nose and pointed mustache that vaguely assembled Eggman's own facial features. It had sharp claws at the end, and its waist section was studded with spikes. It carried a weapon that looked like a horn roller, only the roller had spikes everywhere. Its right shoulder had an exhaust stack that had a thin trail of steam coming out from it. It was colored red and black, similar to Eggman's outfit. Tails hid behind Sonic in fear, but Sonic just put on a bored face. Gosh, Eggman, you really need to stop giving your robots puns for names. It's unbearable, moaned Sonic. And that is just facts. Super snout steak, baby, moaned Sonic. Yeah. You see, Eggman had a strange habit of giving his robots puns for names, if you hadn't noticed. Some robots were unfortunate to have egg at the beginning of their names. And if you couldn't tell, that's obviously a bad thing.
If you think the name's unbearable, wait till you see him in action,
Crowd Eggman.
Scream Roller, attack! Give him the puns! Give him all the puns!
Excellent. Egg extravagant. Egg amazing. No! Scream Roller raised his hand roller weapon up and then swung it like a baseball bat. The spike roller detached from its pole and hurled towards Sonic. Sonic leapt out of the way just in time as the zooming roller shot straight past him like a whizzing arrow, and it crashed straight into a wall, leaving a huge studded dent in it. Even though Eggman was the enemy, Tails couldn't help but be impressed. Well, that's some serious weaponry, gasped Tails. Thank you, Tails. It only gets better, though, purred Eggman. The roller wrenched itself free from the wall and rolled back to Scream Roller. It reattached itself from the pole, and Scream Roller held his weapon in the hand roller position. He pushed the roller and stampeded towards Sonic. Sonic ran out of the way as Scream Roller hurtled past him with his studded roller. That was one weapon he didn't want to be run over by. Yikes! Shrieked Sonic. I don't know about you egg brains, but I don't want to become a cross between a pancake and Swiss cheese. Thanks.
Oh, you will, Sonic. You will, growled Dr. Eggman. You will become part of my sandwich, and don't try to outrun it because I built him with enough power to keep you up. And don't try to outrun it because I built him with enough power to keep up with even you. Plus, I'm really hungry right now. I need a sandwich. I need it.
Yo, man, yelped Sonic as he ran away from the Screen Roller's charge. I was just joking, man. What the heck? You're actually gonna eat me? That's disgusting. The huge robot ran after him, still pushing his roller weapon in an attempt to flatten his prey once and for all. Sonic ran this way and that, but Scream Roller just continued to chase him down with his spiked roller. Sonic needs help, squeaked Tails. But what can I do? I'm no fighter. I'm a lover. Oh. He thought to himself desperately. He had to help his friend. He had to. But how could he help if he couldn't fight? Then he had an idea. What if his parents always told him about robots with exhaust stacks mounted on them? He got it at last. He had a totally realistic flashback that lasted for 4 minutes. He twisted his tails around one another and took flight. He dodged Scream Roller as he and Sonic ran past him, and Tails flew towards Dr. Eggman, who was prancing about cheering, "Flatten him, Scream Roller," over and over. Alonzo stood beside him, watching with intent. Dr. Eggman really was the king of dance after all. Tails swooped down and seized Alonzo by the body. Alonzo yelped in surprise where his Eggman just swept dropped. "What are you doing with my servant, box face?" demanded Eggman angrily. Oh my goodness. "This!" cried Tails, flying towards Scream Roller's shoulder-mounted exhaust stack. He raised Alonzo above his head and prepared to shove him down the huge robot's exhaust stack. "Put me down!" squealed Alonzo. "I don't want to clean up this mess afterwards." Tails ignored him and shoved Alonzo headfirst into Scream Roller's exhaust stack. The 10-foot robot screeched to a halt and remained still. Then it began to make a rather ominous-sounding electronic wail. Dr. Eggman panicked. His mustache straightened as he sweat dropped. "No!" he shouted. "If you block Scream Roller's exhaust pipe, he will overload and explode." "Exactly," reported Tails. Sonic couldn't believe what Tails had just done, but he shook it off for the moment, as now was not a good time for admiration at doing something so simple. "In that case, it's time we escaped now," I said. But Sonic also said it. "In that case, it's time we escape now," he said. Tails flew down to Sonic and landed in his arms. The blue hedgehog carried the yellow fox as he whizzed through the corridors at his trademark speed. Dr. Eggman knew right now was a good time for a strategic exit, so he ran to the door marked exit, hurled it open, and ran through it as fast as his legs would let him. He runs pretty quickly for a fat person, doesn't he? Question mark. It's really fascinating, but in all honesty, if you've watched the Dr. Robotnik documentary, you'd know that all his power does come from the amazing, spectacular mustaches. Each one gives him a different power, And if you've been paying attention, you realize that the final, most ultimate mustache gives him the power of confidence, with the second layer mustache being a booster. And that's all I've got to say. Screamroller's huge body began to shudder and shake. Then steam began venting out from his body. Then Screamroller began to get fatter as all the trap steam inside him built up and up and up. Screamroller got fatter and fatter until his overloaded body couldn't take it anymore. Then the huge robot exploded into an even bigger explosion. The explosion tore through the whole of Eggman's base and sent it erupting in flames. Sonic looked over his shoulder to see the carnage. It was almost like a bomb had gone off inside. Sonic just laughed at the second Eggman base that had been destroyed today. I mean, what are the odds? 2 in one day? You just gotta be that awesome. Yeah, that's what I'd say. Totally awesome. And that's just the facts. He leapt over the steel wall and charged off into the forest of Green Hill Zone, carrying Tails in his arms. Minutes later, Sonic found a quiet place in the forest and settled down for a rest. He put Tails down and sat down beside him. Tails, that was sweet, applauded Sonic. How'd you know that would happen if you blocked Screamroller's exhaust stack up? Tails smiled honestly. Well, me and my parents are skilled in mechanics. Technical fiddle faddle, he said. I can fix and repair things, and I studied all about machinery. I learned that if a... Whoa. Did you just change voices? Well, I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah. I learned that if a robot has an exhaust stack, it's always the weak point, because if you block it up, the trap steam has nowhere to go, and the robot overloads and explodes from the steam building up inside it. Pretty cool, huh? Sonic couldn't believe his luck. First the annoying voice went away, and then Tails became awesome. He had come across a kid with an amazing amount of technical intelligence, as well as mechanical skills. This kid was blessed with greatness, and he knew it. He knew Tails would make an excellent fighter if he joined him. He knew he'd be totally better than that other, Fox character, lady girl, who Sonic oddly forgets the name of at the moment. He smiled at his new friend and said, Tails, that's not cool. That's way past cool. He gave him his ever-famous thumbs-up sign. Tails giggled with pleasure. Now we have a moment. Let's begin your training, said Sonic. I can tell, will be a great fighter. Okay, Sonic, said Tails eagerly. Sonic got to his feet and wandered off, with Tails following him. Sonic couldn't wait to begin Tails' training. ... And that's it for the nice arc, Speed and Flight. If you didn't get it, it's because Speed is Sonic and Tails is Flight. Even though Tails barely flew at all in this arc. Like, I wish flying was the big focal point of the climax, because the title is Speed and Flight, but whatever. And next time, I think the next 3 chapters are separate issues. 6, 7, and 8. Maybe I'll do a 3-in-1. That sounds like so much fun. Not tonight. I have a weak voice today, but next time we go to Horda and Borda, Mayhem and Megatropolis, Mayhem and Megapolis, and Under Pressure. Under pressure, pushing down on me, pushing down on you. Sonic is awesome.